Hello everybody, it's Dragana from Saacibo. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be sharing a process of making a journal cover with my eco print, one that I created in my previous video. In case you haven't seen that video and would like to know how I created the print, I will leave the link to that video in the description box below. As you can see, I'm flipping the print front and back, trying to decide which side I like better and what works for the front. I am using one of my old journals as a guide for the width of the spine. I decided to use the whole print with frayed edges showing. The size is 11 by 17 inches. This will give me a rather large journal, a perfect candidate to become my new art journal. I have a sheet of handmade paper with some grass embedded into it that I plan to have on the front. I found some green lace that used to be a part of my blouse that doesn't fit anymore. Pieces are almost the perfect size and I think they would look nice as a frame around that front piece. The grass is not glued to the paper, so I decided to add one napkin ply on top to secure it. I'm placing some acetate down to protect my cutting mat from the glue. I'm cutting the napkin slightly larger than the paper. I'd rather have more and cut it off than not have enough. I'm taking an empty glass container and filling it 1/3 of plain tap water. And I'm adding 2 parts of white craft glue. I'm closing the lid tightly and I'm shaking it really well. At this stage, I'm thinking it might be good to add some coffee or tea to the glue for the color, but I don't want to stop the recording, so I decide adding some dark brown ink spray to the glue mixture is going to work just fine. I'm going to use the white brush to apply the glue to the paper first. Just a cheap brush from a hardware store, nothing fancy. I'm trying to be as gentle as possible so that I don't disturb the grass. I'm also very generous with the glue because this handmade paper is very absorbent and it soaks up the glue quickly. I'm applying the glue from the center towards edges so that I don't break the grass or lift it up from the paper. That middle section is a bit tricky, so I take extra care. Now I'm placing the napkin on top while the glue is still wet. I'm applying the glue on top of the napkin in the same fashion as before, taking extra care not to tear the napkin. I'm going to leave it to dry completely, and now we'll be working on other parts of the journal cover. I'm going to use the torn brown paper bag as the base for the cover. And it seems like it's just a bit short for my fabric. I'm removing the bag handles because they're bulky and they're in my way. I decided to open up the bag, and I'm glad I did it because it is now an almost perfect fit. The bag is torn in a few areas, so I'm calling a glue stick to the rescue. I'm gluing all the sides together to get a sturdier piece for my cover. Now I'm checking if the size is good. I'm drawing 2 marks where I need to cut, and I'm going to just square the edges a tiny bit. I have some packing paper that came in a box when I ordered something online. I want this paper on the inside, so I'm cutting it slightly bigger than the cover because I want to have enough to wrap around the edges. Also, I don't want it just plain like that, so I'm scrunching it up to make it really distressed. I'm going to paint this paper with some acrylics using a brayer. I have seen recently a video by Tracie Fox called Step by Step Easy Grungy Paper from Packaging, and I've been itching to try and make some myself. I will leave the link to that video in the description box below in case you'd like to check it out. I'm going to use some brown, yellow and green so that it matches the colors of my eco print. First, I'm going to start with brown. I'm spreading the color on a piece of acetate and applying it to the paper with the brayer. Now I'm going to use some green. I don't really have a plan. I'm simply rolling the paint over and trying to have even distribution of colors on the page. And now I'm adding some yellow ochre. I'm not covering everything, and I don't want to go all the way to the edges because edges will be wrapped over the cover and they're not going to be visible. I have some white ink spray, and I'm spraying it in some areas to have some lighter shades. I'm also spraying some gold spray paint. This one is meant for fabric, but I love using it on paper. Nozzle gets clogged often, so I decided to just open it up and splatter a few drops directly from the bottle. I'm repeating the same process with this dark brown ink spray. To finish it off, I'm splattering watered down white acrylic paint by tapping the brush. I'm going to let this paper dry completely now. It's been an hour approximately and the paper is dry, but I don't like the feel of it. It's too rough to the touch, so I'm going to paint it with clear glossy acrylic varnish. There's only a little bit left in the bottle and I'm going to use it all up. I'm adding it directly to the paper and simply spreading it with a brush. Packaging paper is really dry, so it soaks it all up fairly quickly. So I'm adding more of the varnish. It's a different brand, but also clear glossy varnish, so I'm hoping it won't matter. Here I am continuing the work on the cover the next day. Paper is dry and it feels great. I'm going to glue it onto one side of the cover, and this is the side that it's going to be on the inside. I'm going to turn the excess paper over the cover and glue it as well. I'm doing the longer edges first. I repeat the process on the other side. I'm gluing the corners with some craft glue, which is stronger than the glue stick. There is more paper there and I fear the glue stick won't hold down all the layers. I'm adding a couple of clips to hold it while it dries. I love how it looks and feels. And I repeat the process on the other side. While the glue is still a bit wet, I'm bending the cover to shape. There is a crease there and I'm not happy about it, but I'm going to reinforce the spine anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'm going to have the frayed edges of the fabric left like that. That's why I wrap the paper over the edges so that they're neat and a bit stronger. Handmade paper piece is now dry and I'm just tearing off the excess napkin. I'm applying the varnish over the top in the same way I applied it to the packaging paper, and I'm letting it dry. Now I'm preparing the lace that I'm going to put around the paper as a frame. I'm taking the measurements first. I'm going to trim the ends of the lace a little bit and make the corners mitered so that everything sits nicely. I do this for all ends. Now I'm securing the lace to the fabric with just some pins. I start from one end and pin everything around. One of the lace pieces was a bit out of shape, so I stretched it to fit. I'm pinning the strips that are meant to be journal closures as well. I placed one approximately in the middle and I'm using it as a guide to place the other one. The front piece has dried and I will simply slide it underneath the lace and take it to my sewing machine to stitch on top. I'm using a wide zigzag stitch and I'm stitching the inner edges of the frame first, making sure that I remove the pins before the needle gets too close. Now I'm doing the corners twice just to make sure both sides are caught with the thread, and I go over once more over the inner edge. I pinch the ends and hold while stitching. Finally, I go over the outer edge. I remove that pin that holds the fabric strip when I get close to it. Next step is gluing the fabric to the cover, and unfortunately I didn't get that on camera. I had problems with it, it kept shutting down for some reason, but for your information I used white craft glue. Here I'm just checking that the corners are glued properly. I'm going to reinforce the spine and I'm using some recycled packaging cardstock. I'm taking the measurements and cutting the length. I'm opening it up and I will cut 2 strips and glue them together because it's not a very thick cardstock. I'm going to cut it with a knife to make it 4 centimeters wide because it's too thick for the guillotine. I'm going to glue another strip of fabric over the spine reinforcer to make it look neat. I cut it larger so that I can fold over the fabric. I'm using a glue stick and some white glue. I'm thinking glue stick isn't enough. I could have just gone with the white glue from the start. I'm trimming the corners there to make them less bulky. Then I glue the other side and trim as well. I'm marking the middle so that I know where to glue the spine reinforcer. I'm applying the acetone-based glue because the surface underneath is a bit glossy from the varnish, and this will be weak point of the journal. Once the glue dried, I took everything to my sewing machine and stitched all around, catching the fabric and the cover with a zigzag stitch. I also stitched the reinforcer with a straight stitch. Now I'm pressing it a bit to get it into a journal shape. Again, my camera failed and I didn't record adding eyelets to the spine, but at least I have recorded threading the elastic. I'm going through the first top hole from the outside in and then pulling also from the first bottom hole out. Then I pull the elastic through the bead and into the top middle hole. I pull it down through the bottom middle hole out. I'm struggling to pull it through the bead, so it's time to get my trusted tool, crochet hook. Now I go up through the last top hole, then down through the last bottom hole out. Now I'm pulling that top end of the elastic through the bead, and I'm simply tying the two ends together. I'm trimming the excess length and securing the ends with a lighter to stop them from unraveling. I'm probably going to add some beads to them later on. I'm going to decorate the front a little bit more and then I'll show you what it looks like. Ta-da! I'm back live now. No voiceover. Yeah, that's my new journal cover, and this is definitely going to be my new art journal. I have glued some yo-yo flowers, some wooden flowers, buttons. There's some tiny decorations that I had here as well. This is like a wooden butterfly button and some leaves, and the grass here doesn't really show that much. I'm thinking perhaps I will go over with some ink and make it stand out more, but I'll decide on that later on. I might even just glue something else on top. I just feel like it needs to stand up a little bit more. But there it is, the spine, closure and everything. And I just love the paper that I use in here. It's just really grungy and I love it. Okay, I also picked up the papers that I want to put in, and I did just some basic decorations, but this is going to be a journal that I'm going to work on for some time. I'm not going to rush it. This is going to be my art journal, so when I'm inspired I will do a page or 2 or 3 anyway. So I'll just show you what I picked for it. I picked some of my eco prints for this cover, and I turned those into pockets. And for it, as you can see, for each signature I made like a little cover, because this is paper bag cover. It's not that thick or strong, so I felt like all the signatures needed a little bit more of the structure. So I just added some of my Gelli prints, some book pages, some dyed papers that I've done recently. There's an envelope here that needs to be decorated, some other Gelli prints, just a book page with a Gelli print, those envelope pages that I've done. Just picked like a few things that I've done that I thought would look interesting in this journal. There's my eco print with dry method, so I'm going to add this one here. Okay, so now the middle one. Oh, this is just a masterboard that I've done a few months ago, and I haven't used it anywhere else, but I really love it, so I've decided to use it here. And there's a pocket there as well. So again, I just picked up some book pages, some other pages. I think I attached a few things, so to remind myself what I want there. Again, some of those envelope pages, Gelli prints, dyed papers, handmade papers, waxed papers. Oh, this is one of those 12 by 12 that I tea or coffee stained. More Gelli prints. You know, just things that I hope will inspire me. This is another one of my eco prints. Okay, it's probably similar on the back. Yeah, so this one is going to go in the middle like that. This is going to be a big and thick journal. Now for this one, I picked up this Gelli print. I think I've done a video a few months ago on creating backgrounds with your Gelli print, so I will link all those videos in the description box. So I've been dying to use this one because I love it so much, and the color wise it's just perfect. And I used the other half here, and I just created a little belly band with those dragonflies. Okay, and I just attached this here because I want to make like a little cluster here, but I didn't have time, so I just put that there to remind myself. Oh yeah, I wanted to also use this one somewhere. This is my own stamp made from liner cut of a sunflower. Again, this is waxed. More book pages here. Yeah, I think yeah, that's why I put it there. I want to glue these book pages to the envelopes of somehow. More of these. Some papers, tea stain, packaging, doily, another Gelli print, more Gelli prints, and some rusty papers. Yes, it's similar on this side, but like I said, I will be working on this journal. This is now a blank journal kind, apart from the few decorations that I've put on the signature covers, but I will be working on it over the year, I think. And I'm very happy with it, just so it's big enough, and it's grungy, and it's green. I love green. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope I see you again soon. Bye for now.